Hey there, it's Jillian from Life Without Secrets. Ever feel like you and your partner aren't quite on the same page? Well, you're not alone, and that's exactly why I created our latest issue of Truthful magazine. It's packed with insights and stories about bridging that gap and finding a deeper connection. We're diving into real conversations about needs, feelings, and how honest dialogue can rekindle that closeness that you've been missing. Why not explore this together? Go grab your free copy right now at lifewithoutsecrets.com and turn those pages into shared moments. Can't wait for you to dive in and share your thoughts with me. Today, we're doing things a little differently. My friend Melissa Ashton is with us on the show again. And if you missed our episode together back in 2023, you have to go listen to it. Her story is so powerful and totally worth going back and listening to. She even makes me cry. So, I am going to do things a little different today. I invited her to come chat with me. We are going through, just it's May. I'm sure some of you, if you have children, it's a transition period for your kids into summertime. Then there's big things happening. Like my son's graduating. Missy's son had just graduated. So there's all these things that we dealing with emotionally and then getting ready for summer. And I was like, you know what? Like I know that so many people can relate to this and just feel seen just by having this chat. And so I invited Missy on here and we're just going to chat about life in general right now, what we're doing to get through it, to be together through it, um, and how we can still live an extraordinary life, which Missy teaches on. So, Missy, welcome to Life Without Secrets again.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And one of my favorite things to do in the whole world is to chat with you, which we do all the time. So, a better thing to do.
Right? I know. We literally just will call each other in the middle of something and be like, oh my goodness, I have this going on. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I totally get you, and what do we need to do to make it better? Or what can I help you with? We meet weekly in an accountability group as well. And it's kind of like, this is what I've accomplished. This is what I need help on. This is what I'm going to do next week. And I think that we can relate to, and like, we have a lot of things to juggle. Like, we have a family and, jobs, and then trying to do new things and personal growth. And, a lot of people will be like, how do you juggle it all? And it's like, well, having a supportive community is huge, right? Like, me and Missy met through Amberly Lago's mastermind. And, I have to tell you guys that I actually really struggled on an internal level with fitting in for a lot of my life because, I was a young mom and Missy was too, another thing that we relate on a lot. We were both really young moms. And so I felt really disconnected with most people my age on like a deeper level because I wasn't in the right or in the same mindset that they were. And so I kind of struggled with just having that like solid group that like I could totally relate to. And I will say that jumping into the mastermind together, like I have formed like some of my deepest friendships, like Missy. And so, I would say like even if you have to, find a group and pay for it, it's worth it. Like if you find people on a similar path. Like what do you think, Missy?
Well, I think that that is the key to people on a similar path and like-minded people. I would echo the same that I truly have made lifelong friends from the
Mhm.
people that have met in Amberly's mastermind, including Amberly is one of them. But also, I think if we looked back and we looked back before that, and probably if we talked to a lot of the other women that were in there, I think
Yeah.
one of the things that brought us all to that place and we intersected is, and this is for me personally, but I'm guessing that it's true for you. Well, I know, and then other people that I had done really a lot of my own healing. I had gone on this healing journey of really figuring myself out and
Mhm.
doing a lot of healing. And even that, mindset of looking through the filter of, well, I don't belong and I don't feel like I fit in, like really allowing myself to go walk into a place and even try it. That was before that came after really me doing a lot of my own inner work. And so I would think that
Hmm.
I would guess that that's very similar for everyone, and likely what brought us all to the to that place.
Yeah, and I think there's like a whole deeper level that you get to go to with friends or people that you're around when you've actually done the work. Missy, do you mind like sharing kind of what that work process looked like for you? Because I think that would be really helpful. Like I think I've shared a lot of mine obviously on the podcast, but I'd love to know what that looked like for you.
Well, I was at a place in my life where, from the outside looking in, I did, and I looked like that I had it all. I mean, I had
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful home, and I had this family, a wonderful husband, and by every account, that everything that you could measure, I did have all these things, and I felt very numb inside. And I would feel guilty, like I was ungrateful for what I had. But the reality was, I wasn't feeling real one way or another. I joke a lot saying I was one of the only sober ones in my extended family, but I was very numb and just going through life, not really feeling a lot of anything. And I recognized that. I recognized there
Mm-hmm.
was something missing inside of me. And that's what it was. It was missing
Mm-hmm.
inside of me, because everything outside of me is, I had it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I had been through hard things, and our family had been through really difficult things, but we had walked through and made it through. But it, I started to recognize that the common denominator was me, and like
Mm-hmm.
and I began to look inward. And so that began my journey of recognizing that I had some things going on inside of me that I really needed to figure out and
Yeah.
address.
And heal from. And I think too, like there's a common belief, like, you do all this work. And I think actually, at least in my journey, when I started the work, it actually seemed to get a little bit more difficult in the beginning, right? Because all these things from your childhood and everything start coming to the surface. And then I think like you have to really go through those and sit with them for a minute and then figure out how it affects each part of your life and then change the perspective and, you know, change the way in which we respond to those things that have happened to us to the past and realize that they're still affecting us in the present. And so that was huge for me as well. And moving forward, they're just things that I'm more aware of and can recognize and respond to instead of react to in the situation. But I
Well,
also
I
want to
think
just
that
be transparent. No, go ahead, Missy.
I was just going to say, you that alone, of you recognize that you learned how to respond instead of react. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't even have been able to articulate that until I started doing this work, that I actually was really reacting to a lot, just on autopilot, reacting,
Yeah.
reacting, reacting, instead of learning and choosing how to respond in a way that actually served me well.
Yeah. And I will say, like, just to be transparent, it's not always easy, right? Like doing all these things, having kids, having a career, focusing on our own healing journeys, growth journeys. It's a lot, right? And from the outside in, it can look like we have it all together, but it's like, me and you talk and we're like, okay, like we have this accountability group and we have all these things that we're going to check off our list this week. And then the next day, this kid ends up in the ER and this kid has a last minute project and another one needs baseball cleats. Right. And the list goes on and on. And I think that like being able to call you and be like, on my way to go pick up baseball cleats when I really like needed to be doing something else or on the way to the ER or whatever. Yeah, and just having you just get me and I get to vent in that moment and know that I'm seen and I'm heard and I'm understood like on a whole nother level. It helps me to like rest in that, recover from it, and then rise and still tackle the things that we need to tackle.
I think that is so true. I think having someone to listen,
Hmm.
to understand, to validate you, and not necessarily fix anything, but also just continue to cheer for you. But also, one thing that I really appreciate and love about you is that you'll call me out. Like you'll call me out. Like you'll be
Yeah.
honest with me but in a loving, supportive way always. But I do appreciate the level of, honesty and realness. And I know that I can count on compassion, but I can also count on accountability. And I think that having that mix in a friendship, and also someone to like not take it all seriously and laugh about all of it or cry
Yeah.
at times
Yeah.
cry together. So I think that's interesting. You mentioned like an extraordinary life, like having that in our lives is something that money cannot buy. And it is
Hmm.
part, does make an extraordinary life for me. That is invaluable.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that we're all going to have those days where we struggle or things are not always going to go as we planned, right? And so I think like I would say finding those people in your life that are going to throw out that flotation device when you need it, because I feel like, that's what we are to each other in a group, and find that tribe, and even to create time in your calendar. Like Missy and I meet on Tuesdays at noon with some other girls, and it holds us accountable to check in too, because in life today, um, there's so many things vowing for our time. And so if find the right people that are on the same trajectory and at the same level, and then create a time in your calendar, because I think that that's been really valuable in both of our situations.
I think it's been huge. And for me, it has been. And I think it's common. You'll hear people that they have an accountability partner at the gym, and that's a common thing
Yeah.
to have.
Yes.
But I think that also really kind of in all aspects of our life to have someone, these accountability partners who will hold us accountable in our business. And for us, we're multifaceted and we do different things and we're entrepreneurs. And so really we're our own bosses for the most part.
Hmm.
We don't really report, but so to have other people that are there that can problem solve and be creative and help you be innovative, and also if you need a helping hand at times, like be that team for you. But when you're an entrepreneur, um, I feel like it's really helpful to have someone to actually
Hmm.
hold you accountable, because the only person you're actually accountable to in reality is yourself.
Yeah. And even if, let's say, you're not an entrepreneur, but maybe you want to be working on your own personal growth. Like, do you have other people in your life that are also wanting to work on themselves? And can you figure out some space on your calendar to hold you accountable in that regard? To ask you the right questions or join a group, that's how me and Missy met. Joining a group that is going to better ourselves and better our journeys that we were on, and podcasting, speaking, the whole shebang. So, you've been doing a lot of work on some things lately too, and I really want to chat about that as well. So, first of all, we've mentioned extraordinary life, but what does it mean to you to live an extraordinary life? Like, let's get down to that.
Well, I say often that I think that the world has this definition of what extraordinary means, an extraordinary life. But for me, I feel like a true extraordinary life is actually not something that money can buy, but it is something that is found in the ordinary moments of life. And
Mhm.
I think that that's a skill set to learn to be able to recognize and see where those extraordinary moments are, and to not only notice them, but to feel them.
Mhm.
That's really like not only to notice them with our and see them with our eyes, and notice these things that are going on in life, but when you feel that, um, with an emotion of, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. And it's just in a
Mhm.
regular day. Um, it does create that is what the extraordinary moment is. And I feel like those are the moments that you're going to hear talked about at a funeral. Those are the
Mm.
moments when someone says everything that they loved about their mom or their dad. It's not in the extraordinary things that they bought them or did. It will be in a moment, when they built a fort and laughed about something, or,
Mm.
these little things that we do in life, that really, they're really not the little things. They're actually the big things.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think that is so profound, like for us to even write down because it is true, right? Like when you think about your own life and growing up, those extraordinary moments that you remember are not necessarily like this big thing your mom bought you or the vacation you went on, but like that moment in time, that gave you that feeling. I know you have so many stories of extraordinary moments in your life, but I want you to share a story of an extraordinary moment that happened in an ordinary situation for you.
Well, I think off the top of my head, just recently, it was Mother's Day, and it was to be honest, it was a hectic day. My family did some really sweet, special things for me, but we had out of town company coming in. We were having a big dinner at our house that night. We had to, we were teaching a class at church, so we had all these things going on. We had been out of town and just came home. So by anybody's standard, it was really kind of a hectic day. Even though, my family was like, no, don't do anything, sit back and relax. But all this was kind of going on, and we have a large family, and everybody had come over. We were all sitting outside, and uh, kids were swimming in the pool. Some kids were playing, and adults were playing in a basketball game. There was people around a fire talking to each other, and I was sitting on a chair, and the dog was running around. It was really kind of a chaotic moment. But I just recognized around me, there's all these people that I love here, and
Mhm.
I just started taking in all the noise, and they were this like den of the background, and there was kids like laughing hysterically and playing in the pool. I had adults around me that were reminiscing and telling old stories that have happened before. Some other people in the background were like laughing. I wasn't in any of these conversations, but I just started to take it all in and recognized this moment that there's all these people here that I love, and they love each other, and they're having so much fun. And
Mhm.
there was this connection between in different ways and all these different people. And I just took it all in. And I thought later, I thought, oh, I wish I would have had my phone and recorded that. But then I thought, oh, I'm so glad I didn't have my phone, because I sat there and felt it. And so
Mhm.
I have chills. Like, well, I'm talking about this and I can see it all in my mind, and it brings chills to me, because it was just this moment that I took in, and it really truly was a chaotic moment. But I just stepped back and recognized that there was all this like fun and playfulness and happiness and love and reminiscing and conversations going on and new memories being made. And it was all happening in my backyard around me.
Mm.
So yeah, that's just recently
Yeah.
on Mother's Day.
I'm gonna totally try not to cry, but my oldest is graduating on tomorrow actually. Today's Thursday. Oh my goodness. And I was pregnant with him when I graduated high school. And this week, oh my gosh, it's gonna make me cry. I know it's gonna make me cry. Um, I've been really just trying to take pauses, kind of like what you're saying. And I look around me and I just feel so grateful because I'm like, I think of like all the things that I've done while raising him, and we really grew up. Like I was growing up raising him. And, it's so funny because Gabby Barrett has that song, Growing Up Raising You. And it makes me cry every time I hear it because I literally feel like I was growing up raising him. And now to be at his graduation where the journey of him being like started for me, it feels so surreal, but I look around and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I have this beautiful home and this beautiful backyard and we're going to have, 65 people here on Saturday and celebrate him and look at how many people are showing up because they love him and they love me and they like I'm so grateful." And, so I want to know, like, what do you do in order to train yourself to be present and aware of those extraordinary moments? Because on Saturday, I am going to do whatever you say. because I want to embed that as an extraordinary moment in my life because I already know it is. And it's been an extraordinary week to just, be able to sit in that feeling. So emotional. But what do you do to be able to be more aware and present for those extraordinary moments? Because the world is busy and they can just pass us by.
Well, so like I have clients that I coach with, and there's some specific exercises we go through, but I think I want to talk specific about in a moment like this when you're having a
Mhm.
graduation party and it's something that's really special to you. And it is, this like it's very significant, and it means a
Mhm.
lot, not only for your son, but for you and how far you've come, how far he's come. There's a lot there. Um,
Yeah.
and and as a mom, and I'm sure you feel this, is like we get caught up in which we don't have a choice. We have to do these things. Do we have enough napkins? What about all the food? Do we
Yeah.
have enough drinks? What about the paper plates? Who's bringing this? We got to clean. We got to get that. Is we got to clean up, get everything done and ready. And so in on the details of it, often it's easy to get lost in. That's one of the biggest ways to get lost in. And so my suggestion would be do all the things, get ready. But once that party starts, forget about all of that.
Mm.
Forget about every bit of the food and the napkins and all the things. Um, like take a moment to pause and listen. Listen to the sound. Watch your son. Like hug him. I, say the words. I love you so much. It's so important to say to our kids how proud we are of them, but how proud you are of him. I like take a moment and say that and feel it, and
Mhm.
feel how proud you are of yourself for how far you've come. So really forgetting about the details of the party while you're at the party is very difficult
Mhm.
for that's going to be
Mhm.
my as my
Yeah.
friend to you, to get it all ready and then just let the party be and step back and take it all in and watch him. We like to take out our phone and take snapshots and get things for reels, and I that's fun too. We should do that. But I like to take mental like snapshots in my mind of like just really looking at my child. Well, he's not a child; he's a grown man now. But and I have grown, daughters and sons too. So I say child in that, but really looking at that and taking a snapshot of this moment of what he looks like and everything about him and just everything that he is, and like taking some snapshots and just really taking time to um, notice and feel it with him, and give him an opportunity um, to tell him how you
Yeah.
feel. I think that's really just being intentional with that, and the party's going to be fine. You're going to have people there. That there, all of this stuff's going to work itself out. So once you get it ready, let all that
Mhm.
stop being the hostess and step in to being a mom.
Mm. I love that. Stop being the hostess and just step into being the mom. I love that so much. Um, what do you think about or some practical tips that we can offer listeners to help improve their connections with people around them just in the world today?
Well, that is such a big question, and
I know. It is very vague, but I thought we could just dive into it and see where it goes.
well, I think that it's such an important question, though, and probably not a better one to ask, because I think that just as a society as a whole, and what we
Mhm.
all need, and myself included, and every single one of us, is deeper connections. That's what
Mhm.
that is
Yep.
the answer to almost everything, is deeper connections to ourself, each other, and God. That's really
Yeah.
the answer to everything. Um, I think that what we can do in order to get that is to be intentional about it, to put down our cell phones and to take time to look people in the eyes that we love and say the things that we feel. Tell the people that we love that we love them, how much
Mhm.
they mean to us. Our kids, that we're proud of them. I think that we actually need to learn how to be vulnerable and do it. I think
Mhm.
it's really a little bit morbid, but like I think in my experience is that we learn a lot how to live life in death, like in funerals. We all
Yeah.
hug each other and we say, I love you. And we text people that we love, and we all show up together, and like we worship and sing together, and we
Mm-hmm.
sit down and eat with one another, and we look each other in the eyes, and we share memories and stories, and we laugh and we cry. I think that that's actually the secret to life, to do that.
Mm. And
And
not
I
just at
think
a
that it's
funeral.
tragic when we only do that,
Mm-hmm.
not just at a
Yeah.
funeral, but every day. Like, do those things. That's what we should be doing. Um, every day. That's what we should be doing. And that is actually what makes an extraordinary life, is doing that. It feels amazing because it is amazing, and we get
Yeah.
sad when we're so disconnected and busy, and um, going, and we don't slow down and take time to connect. It affects our soul, and we feel it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I also wanted to touch on, like we all go through challenges, right? Like, I had a baby at 18 years old. You heard me say like I was pregnant with my son who's graduating tomorrow when I was 17 and walking across my high school graduation. Like I have been through challenges, okay?
Yeah.
And I want to remind everybody that we're all going to have setbacks. We're all going to have challenges. We're all going to face obstacles in life. And what I will tell you that I've learned in my own life, speaking of living an extraordinary life, is even the bigger the challenge, the more extraordinary the triumph.
Yes.
And like, so when you are going through those challenges, know that you will make it through and know that there is an extraordinary triumph on the other side. And sometimes it's going to take years to get to that triumph. Sometimes it's going to take a day, and sometimes it's going to take a week. But don't get so caught up in the challenge that you miss the extraordinary triumph, because it will come when you do the work. And, I think that, we're talking about extraordinary. And I think that, whether you're in the moment where you're celebrating or whether you're in the moment where you're going through a challenge, something extraordinary is coming for you.
I love that so much. And I actually, I got tears when you were saying all of that, because, um, so many people are going through so many things, and a
Mhm.
lot of it is unseen that we don't even know.
Mhm.
Some
Yeah.
of it we can see and we do know, but there's a lot of things. So I think whoever is listening, we see you that,
Mhm.
struggle, and life is a struggle. And even though we're saying we've made it on the other side and we've done this inner work, yes, and there's still struggles. There's still
Mhm.
heartbreaks and tears, and um, there really always is going to be some level of struggle, and it ebbs and flows in life. I just so echo what you say, um, and it really
Mhm.
touched my heart, because um, I've experienced the same thing, and I've walked through really. I was too a single mom. Um,
Mhm.
I My son has a traumatic brain injury from when he's 11. We've done so many hard things in life, and everybody that's listening is doing hard things and has gone through things. But I just want to echo that as well. That the deeper the valley, the higher the
Mhm.
triumph. It really truly is. And I just want to echo too what you're saying, is that um, a couple of things is that you will make it through if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Um, and one thing I love is that God knows what we need. Just even Jillian and I meeting, and the other friends I met,
Mhm.
I've been through a hard year, and I feel like God knew I needed some really good friends, and He just put them in my life, and
Yeah.
I needed them, and I've had this blessing of incredible friendship this year, and I'm so grateful for it. But what you really actually need to get through things, it comes to you. It will
Mhm.
come to you. You just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep going. And the lifeboats and the life preservers and the people to throw them, they show up.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
grab them when they come, because they'll get you to the next place, and then you'll get to the next place, and you'll get to the next place, and eventually you do get through it. It changes and you change. And
Yeah.
I that really that is part of the beauty of life is we're supposed to change.
Yeah.
We're supposed to grow, and we're supposed to experience things. And one of the most beautiful things to me and is the people that throw the life preservers to you and help you. You get to a point that you have the life preserver, and
Yeah.
you're going to throw it to someone. You're going to be the one that gives it to somebody else, and you're going to be the light for somebody else that's going through what you're going through right now. And so
So
I
true.
just so echo what you say, Jillian, of you get through it, and it's really, really true that extraordinary is on the other side.
Yeah. And something else that you pointed out there too was that, embracing the change or stepping out of our own comfort zones in order to reach those circumstances where we have people in our life or where we've actually not just live with the challenge, but work through it. There's a difference there. You can either live with the challenge or you can decide to do the work and overcome the challenge. And that requires us to get out of our comfort zones. And so the more that we can get out of our comfort zones when there's a point in our life that there's something that needs to change, I think that those, we talk about like extraordinary support systems and finding our friends. We talk about living an extraordinary life. Um, and those extraordinary moments. And then there's extraordinary circumstances in each little step that we take get to move out of our comfort and really process that change to get to a better place. So I think that in that process, one of the things that was really important for me, and I think I've kind of shared this before, but having the self-compassion in the process of getting out of our comfort zone and knowing like this is difficult for us, right? And really just giving ourselves those compassions to maybe even make a mistake or two in the process, right? Like we all make mistakes, and when we can not focus on self-criticizing or comparing, but when we can focus on compassion, there is more extraordinary to be seen as well.
100%. And something that I've learned and I've had to recognize in myself, and I'm not perfect at it all the time. I catch myself, is that level of compassion and grace that we give ourselves will always
Mm-hmm.
parallel the level of compassion and grace that we can give to other people. And when
Yeah.
we learn to really give ourselves that compassion and grace, and our self-talk is kind to ourselves, and we give ourselves that, it's really interesting because our heart does grow. It feels a little bit like maybe it could be selfish or self-serving, but the reality is it's actually the opposite, is that our capacity to love others and to
Mm-hmm.
have that compassion and grace for other people expands and grows
Yep.
when we give that to ourselves. We have
Yep.
the ability to love others more. It's really, really important to um, to learn to give ourselves and really like not take ourselves so seriously. Like I have some days that it's a swing and a miss. Like
Mm-hmm.
you did well, I didn't show up. I did react instead of respond.
Yeah,
I said
100%.
that I wish I could take back. I was, there that it happens, and I think it happens. We're all humans, and so we're going to have these human moments. But also, like, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna apologize. I'm gonna give myself grace. I'm gonna give other people grace, and I'm just gonna move on, not to stay in it. It makes such a difference.
Yeah. And you were just telling me about that with your son as well, like lately. It was like you reacted to the situation and then you went back and it was this beautiful, extraordinary moment. Just the other day we were talking.
We're having a random conversation, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you about. So our youngest son Dallas, just graduated from high school, and he's been saying, "Mom, I'm going to move out. I'm going to move into this house with my friends." But in my mind, I was thinking it was down the road. And he's very independent. He's a very hard worker. He's very driven, and he's saved a lot. He has a lot of money saved from the time he's been working in high school. And he just popped down the stairs and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm moving out today. And do you want to go with me to buy a mattress?" And I was completely taken back. And
Yeah.
I reacted. I got emotional, and I was telling him all the reasons, like it's such a terrible idea. And he was upset with me, and I was upset with him. And, I had to take a moment, I had to take a moment and like step back. And I recognized that I was not handling this well. And I also recognized he was going to move out that day, and I could be supportive and help him, and we could make it a good memory, or he was going to move out and I could be mad at him and he could be mad at me, and he would likely remember that for the rest
Yeah.
of his life as the day he moved out. And I recognized I had to make a change
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, and I actually did. I, I I'll be transparent. I recognize this, and I'm like, okay, I got to get it together. And I I talked to my husband on the phone, and then I got on my knees and I actually said a prayer and asked for help as to how I get through life. I think I also talked to Jillian, and
Mm-hmm.
then we got in the car and we went and bought a mattress, and we went and bought some other things that he needed, and we actually had a really fun day. And then we came home, and I loaded up my whole car and he loaded up his whole car, and I helped him move. It was just the two of us, and he was so appreciative. And it was a we had a fun day, and it was a beautiful memory. And had I not made a switch, it wouldn't have been it would have not that wouldn't have been the story. It
Mm-hmm.
would have been hard, and it wouldn't have been a good memory. But just that principle that I'm talking about, I remember being in the store, in like we were in Sam's Club, in the aisle, and we were picking out stuff, and he hugged me and he said, "Mom, thank
Mm-hmm.
you so much." He said, "You don't need to spend so much money on me. I'll help pay for this." And I said, "No, I want to. I'm so proud of you. I'm really proud of you." And that feeling of like, I really am.
Mm-hmm.
And he's this incredible kid who's so driven. And in that moment, I knew in the aisle in Sam's, like, it was a snapshot that I'll never forget. And we talked about it later, and I was like, oh, it turned into an extraordinary moment.
So good. I know. I'm so glad you shared that because, like, when you told me the whole story, I was just like, that is so powerful. It's so powerful. And there's so many moments in our life where if we would just take a step back, like, we could turn something that could be a bad memory into something so extraordinary. And I think that's such a prime example of right there, right that, like that. And, the fact that you had people to call in that moment, whether it was your husband or me or somebody there with you, we don't have to do life alone, and we can take that step back and develop people in our lives to get through it. And actually, just like a couple days ago, I was listening to something about how a single horse can carry like a specific amount of pulling power. And if you add another horse, it's not just like double, it's triple what they can actually carry. And I think that's actually true in our lives as well as humans, right? Like when we are going through something ourselves, we only can hold so much. But when we have a friend or a group of people or other people in our lives that we can be truly vulnerable and deep with, and we don't have to be alone in that moment, like we have the capacity to hold on to so much more and get through so many more things together. Like, I feel like it's just like the horses, like they can do triple the amount, not just double, their strength triples when they're together. And I think that's the same for humans. When I look at it, I feel that way at least.
Absolutely. I love that analogy. And I absolutely feel that way as well. And, and if I look back in that moment and what happened, um, I talked to a couple of people that I'm close to. You happen to be one of them. And I got on my knees and I like talked to God and was like, okay,
Yes.
like help me because I'm here and I'm upset and I'm like, this really can't be happening that my son's moving out. And, there was just all this emotion behind it. And I wasn't responding very well. And I did need to make a flip. And it did give me that ability to do that. And so, absolutely. I think that, just what we started with in the beginning of this conversation about finding those people in our lives, it takes a little bit of courage and vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
to like open up and find those friends. And to be honest, like everybody is not your true blue, tried and
Totally.
true, have your back. I think that's a rare thing. But when we have that inside of us and we open ourselves up to it and we do recognize it in other people, I do think that we do find people, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
um, that open ourselves up and in that vulnerable way, it's kind of like being willing to date.
Totally. And
It's
I'm
kind of
so glad you brought that up. Yeah, because, I do see there's a lot of if something didn't go right maybe in the past, right? That our nervous system will try to actually protect us, right? And so we don't actually take that step of discomfort and get vulnerable. And obviously it's important to choose the right person to do that with. Hopefully somebody that's actually doing their own work or already has. But when you actually can calm your nervous system in that moment and just take that leap of faith, I guarantee you there is something extraordinary on the other side. Like, and it's so true. And, so Missy, you are doing all kinds of extraordinary things. And we keep using that word, but it's for a reason.
Mhm.
Because Missy has a lot of things coming out soon. And I just want to highlight it because I feel really strongly about it as well. She has a podcast coming out and also a course. Can you just tell them about that a little bit?
Yes, the podcast is called The Extraordinary Life podcast, and the same with the course. It's also named the Extraordinary Life Master Program. And I created this course based on what my own experience and my own studies, and it's very science based, and I've walked through the process of all this, and I've worked with many, many, many clients and walked them through this process, and I've gathered all of these things that most of the clients that I've worked through, and this would be me too, was at a
Hmm.
place where I thought, I'm not happy in my life and I think I need to
Hmm.
change everything. Should I move? Should I get a new career? Should I stay married? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like nothing seems to be working for me. And
Hmm.
what happened to me was that when I started doing this work on myself, is that I started to, nothing changed around me externally. And I started recognizing that everything around me was actually incredible and exactly what I wanted. And I began able, I had everything already that I wanted, but I began to be able to see it, to
Hmm.
appreciate it, and to
Yeah.
feel it. And then like I began to be able to experience it. And so that's something that I take my clients through that process. And it's so common for me to meet with men and women who say, I, I don't know what's wrong with me. I should be happy, but
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm not. And I should be fulfilled. And I have this career and I have this life and I have a spouse and I have kids and I have all the things. And I've been on the vacations and I've taken I've done all these things, but there's something missing. And so it brings me an incredible amount of joy to be able to help people through that process that I've been through. And then on the podcast, I'm so excited to share other people's stories who I do believe that ordinary people are really like do really incredible things. I love meeting people.
Hmm.
Just even at the
Hmm.
grocery store, I love hearing people's stories. Oh, I was just visiting you. I haven't even told you this. I was leaving your house.
Oh,
You were I
yeah.
spent the night with Jillian recently. I live in Texas. Jillian's in California. I happened to be there. I had spent the night with her house, like colored with her kids. All like
Yeah, it
that's
was so fun.
I like to party in color.
Yes.
So the next morning I took an Uber and I was headed to a wedding. She had gone to soccer game. I met the man who drove me told me the most incredible story. He was Afghanistan and how his family got over here, and he was an attorney, and his whole story, I was mesmerized. I just couldn't ask him enough questions. He was just an extraordinary man with the story. I got his number because I want to interview him on my podcast.
Oh my gosh, so cool.
I was like, it was just incredible. But I'm saying I meet people like that all the time that inspire me. They
I love
so
that.
inspiring. And that's really what drives me is I think that when we share our stories with each other and the things that we've overcome, it inspires me, and I think connects us with each other. So I hope to be able to share, people's stories who have really truly done extraordinary things.
I love that so much. That's so cool. And I love actually my favorite part about Uber actually is like getting in and talking and figuring out who this person is. So I can totally relate. It's so cool. Well, as we wrap up today, I just want to say thank you, Missy, for just coming on here as a chat. Like we've been trying to do this, you guys, and I will tell you, like it was like I had to cancel before because my internet was not working, and then Missy had to pick up her daughter, and there is just so many things that will always come in our way, but we made this happen. We are here. And I just want to say thank you for coming on here, for chatting with me. Like we have these conversations probably like every week. And, we just talk about like deep stuff. And I was like, we should just like have a conversation because we have great conversations. And I want people to like hear the things that we talk about and what we are going through and the things that have worked for us because we're moms, we're busy. We are all the things too. Like we're not perfect. Like we make mistakes all the time. And, these are the things that have been important to us in those processes. So thanks for coming on here, Missy.
Thank you. Just as usual, when we talk, my heart is always full, and my heart is full today. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And everybody go follow Melissa Lynn Ashton. I will put her links in the show notes, so make sure you check those out. And I just want everybody to remember the extraordinary is all around us if we just take the time to look for it, whether it's through our relationships, our own personal growth, or those special moments with our families for graduation or something else you have coming up. We can all find and create extraordinary experiences. So don't forget to go check out Missy or Melissa Ashton. I call her Missy. And thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, go back and listen to Missy's previous episode from 2023 because it is a must hear. Keep embracing the extraordinary in your lives. Until next time, sending you a giant hug.